Hello and welcome to the Chinksey Sports Presents, the Premier League show. Powered by chinkseyMEDIA. Live and kicking on all digital streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, to name but a few. We are back again for episode 31 and we're ready to rumble. You know what I mean? The last episode seemed like a long time ago, as we had an international break after a game week which had just 4 Premier League fixtures and 4 FA Cup quarter-finals to boot. Now we're on the home straight of the season with games galore. Managers and fans alike can rest assured that we're in for a real treat as the pivotal fixtures between now and May stack up and will ultimately decide the fate of clubs, whether it be the relegation battle for the European spots, or the title race. So, without any further ado, we go straight into the first review of the podcast from game week 29 in the match between Burnley and Brentford. That fixture ended 2-1 to Burnley. After Nottingham Forest's 4-point deduction saw Burnley cut the gap on 17th place Luton Town to a mere 5 points with a win over relegation-threatened Brentford. Burnley took the lead from the spot after Sergio Reguilon's blatant shove on Vitinho was adjudged to have been a foul, only after VAR intervened, to not only award the penalty but also send off the Spaniard on loan from Tottenham Hotspur. This gave Danish international Jakob Brun Larsen the chance to open the scoring against a side renowned for having a great Danish contingent, with the Brentford manager Thomas Frank also being from Denmark. Larsen duly obliged as his emphatic strike from the spot put his side 1-0 up, as well as a man to the good just 10 minutes in. David Datro Fofana, on loan from Chelsea's impact has been such that he has a strong claim to be Burnley's player of the season, despite only playing for the club for 3 months. After contriving to miss an open goal following great work from Lorenz Assignon, the Ivorian forward's atonement was to net Burnley's second goal, which came just after the hour mark of the game, to put the game to bed. 2-0 at that stage. His decisively clinical strike was the polar opposite to his open goal miss and emphasises a rawness all too familiar with someone that young. Datro Fofana bagged his 4th goal for Burnley, but he could have had a lot more. He has missed quite a few sitters. A late-headed goal from Brentford's Christopher Ayer proved to be a mere consolation as the Clarets held out for a hard-fought but much-deserved 2-1 victory. With 4 points from a possible 6 for Burnley, there is now a legitimate, albeit unlikely, possibility of survival. Right, the next game was the game between Luton Town and Nottingham Forest. That game ended 1 apiece, in a game which exemplifies and epitomizes what a relegation 6-pointer represents. These two sides battled for a hard-fought point. Kenilworth Road, the infamous scene of many a scalp this season especially, is renowned for being a tough place to go. However, of recent, the Horcrux appears to have been broken, with Luton losing 4 straight games at home. Once Chris Wood turned in Morgan Gibbs-White's no-look cross after just half an hour, it looked as though the Hatters were about to lose their heads with a 5th successive home reverse. You would have been forgiven for thinking what Rob Edwards' side may lack in quality. They make up for having sheer endeavour and an unwavering never-say-die attitude, which has seen them salvage many points from losing positions, especially late on in matches. That was no different in this game, as 85th minute substitute Luke Berry, aged 31, scored within 4 minutes of his introduction to salvage a dramatic yet vital point for the Hatters, who with defeat could have found themselves 6 points adrift of Forest, who in a bizarre turn of events are now 1 point behind Luton after they were docked 4 points just 2 days after this match. So the two sides swapped places after Nottingham Forest were docked points for financial, what's the word? Misplay, let's say. Right. The London derby between Fulham and Tottenham Hotspur ended 3-0 to Fulham. Only a foolhardy fan would have thought that Fulham would thrash Spurs, but a home win wasn't beyond the realms of possibility. I myself oversaw a shock on the cards, considering Fulham's fantastic recent form, which has seen them pick up 4 wins from their last 6 league games. Spurs went into this game full of confidence, having dispatched of rivals Aston Villa with consummate ease in the previous game week, just 6 days earlier. However, prior to that, they had gone 1-0 down in the 3 preceding matches. So Spurs had been going 1-0 down persistently before the Aston Villa triumph. After they went 1-0 down against Fulham, through informed Brazilian striker Rodrigo Muniz, they must have thought it was merely deja vu and that every little thing was going to be all right, like the Bob Marley song. But that wasn't the case. Once Serbia international Sasha Lucic put Fulham 2-0 up after the midfielder steered in a right-wing cross from Timothy Castagna off his thigh for his first ever Fulham goal. The script was turned on its head and Ange Postecoglou's toiling Tottenham side were up against it. It was game, set and match on the hour mark though, once Rodrigo Muniz bagged his second of the game after Guillermo Vicario parried Calvin Bassey's ferocious left-footed strike right into his path, to bundle home Fulham's third in a 3-0 emphatic victory for the Cottagers to secure their first win in open play, that is, over Tottenham in 11 years, spanning 12 games. With Fulham only 6 points off of 7th placed West Ham United, Marcus Silva's men could potentially have played themselves into the race for 7th place and consequently Europa Conference League qualification, which would be a remarkable feat for the club as the ironic chant "Tottenham get battered everywhere they go" rang around the Craven Cottage stands. Whilst that chant may not strictly be true, they certainly did on this occasion. So 3-0 to Fulham. I actually predicted a Fulham win, but I didn't think it would be 3-0. I think I went for a 2-1 in that game. Check the community tab. Anyway, the last game of that game week, the last of 4 games, was the Sunday fixture, Claret and Blue derby, if you like, between West Ham United and Aston Villa that ended 1 apiece. It was stalemate in the battle of the Claret and Blue as the two sides had to settle for a point apiece. In Sunday's only fixture, veteran forward Mikel Antonio, out of contract at the end of the season, put David Moyes' side 1-0 up after just half an hour, with a low diving header to finish a fantastic cross from Vladimir Sufal, the Czech right back. Antonio thought he had doubled West Ham's lead with his second goal of the game, but it was chalked off after Hammers captain Kurt Zouma handled the ball. Meow. At half-time, Unai Emery rang in the changes and brought on Matty Cash and Moussa Diaby, meaning Ezri Konsa, recently called up for England, slotted in at centre-half alongside Pau Torres, with Moussa Diaby operating in the right centre-forward position with Leon Bailey on his outside on the right flank. However, Villa continued to trail 1-0 up until another substitute, Nicolo Zaniolo, on loan from Galatasaray, bagged a late equaliser just 16 minutes after his introduction, after great footwork from the aforementioned Frenchman, Moussa Diaby. With the score perilously poised at 1-1, West Ham pushed for a late winner and looked like they got one through their Czech cult hero Tomáš Souček, but that was ruled out for handball. and apoplectic David Moyes was made to settle for a point after having 2 goals, rightly if I may add, ruled out for handball. Okay, so that was 2 weeks ago's fixtures summed up. My summary for that week, in terms of my predictions, with only 4 games to predict last time out, I managed to get 2 out of 4 correct results, with Luton and Nottingham Forest ending a draw and Fulham toppling Tottenham. Now it's time to predict this weekend's fixtures, starting with this lunchtime's kickoff between Newcastle United and West Ham United. It makes for an entertaining match to kick off the weekend's round of fixtures. Newcastle United, having been eliminated from the FA Cup quarter-finals to holders and favourites of the competition, none other than Manchester City, will have their eyes set upon clinching European football for next season, making a top 7 finish paramount. They are currently languishing in 10th place, but crucially are only 4 points off of their opponents, West Ham, who currently occupy the coveted 7th position with the game in hand. West Ham, who have a whopping double-header with unbeaten Bayer Leverkusen to look forward to, have lost just once in their last 6 in all competitions to Freiburg, have the holy trinity of Kudos, Paquetá and Jared Bowen, who was impressive for England whilst on international duty, all fit and raring to go. And they'll pose the biggest threat to Newcastle, especially on the break. I think this makes for a pulsating encounter, one with many goals, but I expect Newcastle to edge this one, and I've gone 3-2 to Newcastle. Next game is Burnley against Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea against Burnley, should I say. Burnley will be ruined the fact that they're on loan from Chelsea centre-forward, David Datro Fofana, won't get the opportunity to add to his 4 goals and 1 assist for the Clarets, as he's ineligible to face his parent club in the absence. So in his absence, they'll probably look to the likes of Lyle Foster and teenager Wilson Odubert, who looks to have struck up a decent partnership with Fofana to breach the Chelsea rearguard. As I mentioned earlier on, Burnley will be looking to add to their 4 points from 6 to boost their faint hopes of Premier League survival. They won't stay up, but at the bare minimum, for their fans' sake at least, Company's men will want to keep Luton and Nottingham Forest honest between now and the end of the season. I'm sure internally, Burnley know that anything other than a defeat here will be deemed as a bonus. Chelsea, on the other hand, despite being in lowly 11th, have a game in hand over the 3 sides immediately above them in the league, and are unbeaten in their last 4 league games, having lost just once in their last 8 in all competitions, which was to Liverpool in their Carabao Cup final defeat, where they lost in ultra-dramatic circumstances. A top 6 finish for them is not out of the question, but it will be unless they pick up maximum points here, and I think they will. I've gone 3-1 to Chelsea. Okay, the game between Sheffield United and Fulham. Informed Fulham, led by the red-hot centre-forward Rodrigo Muniz and Alexander Iwobi, who recently launched his podcast on YouTube, will be looking to build on their momentum as they prepare to take on basement boys Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. With 4 wins from 6, Marco Silva's men will certainly be targeting gold as they look to secure a league double over the Blades after winning 3-1 in a corresponding fixture last October. 5 wins and a draw would see Fulham usurp their highest ever points tally of 53, which they fell short of last season by a mere point, 52. The Blades' response to their last home fixture, a 6-0 rout at the hands of league leaders Arsenal, was to earn a respectable 2-2 draw at Bournemouth. They only have 1 win to show for, though, in their last 9 outings, and I'll be flabbergasted if Fulham don't put them to the sword. Well, I mean, flabbergasted is probably hyperbolic, but you get my drift. But I've gone for a 3-1 Fulham win. away from home, that is. Okay, right. Struggling Nottingham Forest take on Crystal Palace. This game is the first of 3 winnable home games in Forest's next 4. And with Luton Town not expected to pick up anything from their North London double-header against both Tottenham away and Arsenal away on Wednesday, if Forest aren't out of the bottom 3 by next week, then alarm bells should be ringing. Palace have made slight progress under the guidance of new manager Oliver Glasner. Now look like they have overcame their perennial flirtation with relegation before a few wins takes them towards mid-table where they reside. And they reside at number 13, where they always seem to finish. 1 win, 2 draws, and a solitary defeat to Tottenham away in his 4 games since taking over the helm suggests to me that there will be no pushovers here. I think that this one will be a draw though. Not that I'm sitting on the fence or anything, but I've gone for a 1-1 draw there. The game between Bournemouth and Everton. The fact that Bournemouth halted a run of 7 league games without a win by going 3 games unbeaten, albeit against the bottom 3 at the time, emphasises how streaky they are as a side. Even at the beginning of the season, it took them a while to get going before they hit form around October-November time. They take on an Everton side who know that 3 or 4 more wins should really confirm their Premier League status for next season, where they should have their new stadium, if I'm not wrong. Bizarrely, despite not winning all year round, a run spanning 11 Premier League games. Everton have not won for 11 Premier League games. Let that sink in. The 9 points, including the 4 they got back after being docked 10 points, have proved pivotal in their survival quest. I don't think this match will be first on Match of the Day, but I think Bournemouth, with their informed winger Antoine Semenyo, who has 4 goals in his last 5 outings, will edge it 2-1. Right, the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Luton Town will be an interesting one. Tottenham, who have had 2 weeks to sit on their dismal display at Craven Cottage, will be looking to put a struggling Luton Town side to the sword later on today. They currently trail 4th placed Aston Villa by 3 points with a game in hand, but this game is a must-win considering Luton are winless in 9 matches in all competitions. In fact, they have only 1 win to show for in their last 11 Premier League games. Make that 12. They ain't winning at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. My prediction's 3-0 to Spurs. Okay. Aston Villa v Wolves. That's a tasty encounter. This makes for an exciting West Midlands derby between 2 sides who have performed better than expected this season. Both are potentially 3 or 4 positions above where you probably expected them to finish the season. Aston Villa have resided in the top 4 for the vast majority of the season and were even touted as possible title contenders at one stage. Their form hasn't been the best of late, with a disappointing defeat at home to Tottenham followed by a point against West Ham, making 3 points against the Gary O'Neill's Wolves paramount. Wolves, on the other hand, will be disappointed that they lost at home to local rivals Coventry City in the FA Cup quarter-finals, and I've noticed that they tend to fare better as underdogs. I have opted to go for a Villa window, but I've been left with egg on my face many a times when I've predicted the Wolves defeat and vice versa, but I'm going to stick with my guns and I've gone for a 3-1 Villa win. Okay, 8 o'clock kickoff, a rare 8 o'clock Saturday kickoff at the GTEC Stadium in a match between Brentford and Manchester United. Brentford, buoyed by Brian Mbeumo's return to fitness, will need to be at their best to scupper Manchester United's late surge for the top 4/5 spots and Champions League football. Although it is unlikely that he'll start this game after so long out, his return will certainly boost squad morale, especially after such a disappointing performance in their 2-1 defeat to Burnley just before the international break. Manchester United will be looking to add to the morale boosting late show against Liverpool in the FA Cup, where they snatched victory from the jaws of despair. United don't tend to draw football games and have a league low of 2 draws in the league all season, but I think that this one will end as one apiece. Okay, Liverpool v Brighton. With Liverpool, well, this is tomorrow's game. With Liverpool's hopes of winning an unprecedented unofficial quadruple going up in flames to none other than their arch rivals Manchester United at Old Trafford just before the international break in one of the most pulsating end-to-end topsy-turvy games of football you will ever see. Whether or not the international break came at the right time remains to be seen. Quite frankly, Liverpool must win this game, both to dispel that myth and get back on horse. With just 10 games left now, there is little margin for error for Jurgen Klopp's men, who return to Old Trafford next Sunday in what will also be a must-win match. Anything other than a defeat at Anfield will take Liverpool back to the top of the Premier League ahead of the title showdown between Manchester City and Arsenal, which we'll get to. 8th place Brighton, who drew 2-2 with Liverpool back in October in what was a fantastic end-to-end game of football, will be looking to pull off a major scalp against a side who haven't lost at home in the league since 2022, a run spanning 30 Premier League games. That's the size of the task facing Roberto De Zerbi's side, but they do have the propensity to pull off results of this magnitude from time to time. And I've got a gut feeling that they will catch Liverpool cold in this one. I may be crazy, but I think Brighton could pull off the mother of all shocks and go to Anfield and win. I've gone 3-2 Brighton. Okay. Right, the big one. Manchester City against Arsenal. Dubbed and billed as the game of the season thus far. Arsenal come into this game optimistic that they can arrest 9 years of misery, which has seen them lose 7 straight Premier League matches at the Etihad, including a 4-1 humiliating defeat last April, which all but ended their title hopes. Manchester City, who have lost their last 2 cagey encounters with Arsenal, albeit one was in the Community Shield on penalties, go into this game buoyed by the fact that they're unbeaten run in all competitions since losing to Aston Villa in December, who they play on Wednesday, incidentally, in a run spanning a whopping 22 matches with 20 victories and a mere 2 draws coming against Chelsea and Liverpool, respectively. They have a few injury doubts. In fact, it was confirmed yesterday that Kyle Walker and John Stones will miss that match, but it remains to be seen as to whether Pep Guardiola is playing mind games, but I doubt it. So it looks like Kyle Walker and John Stones are out of that game, which means the likes of Manuel Akanji, Rico Lewis, Nathan Ake, and Josep Gvardiol are potentially looking like they're going to start that game in place of those two. Ederson looks like he's going to miss that game as well, but Jack Grealish is back to match fitness and is likely to start ahead of Doku. I think he will start because of his good form against Arsenal and just the fact that he's fresh, whereas Doku did play against England on Wednesday or Tuesday. Right, that being said, it is Arsenal who currently top the table on goal difference on the back of 8 straight league victories. Something's got to give. So both teams are on top form, if you like. Arsenal playing the better football. 8 wins on the trot, whereas Manchester City are they're winning games, they're being efficient, and they're on a long unbeaten run since they lost to Aston Villa in December. So something's got to give. My gut feeling is that Arsenal will finally overcome the Etihad hoodoo with a hard-fought, morale-boosting 2-1 away win. Well, we'll find out if that happens. Boy, glad to be back. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and check us out on the streaming platforms, which you'll find in the description and pinned tweet. I'll see you in a couple of days. I believe it's Tuesday for episode 32. Bow!